Welcome to another episode of Pound for Pound Box Report. Episode number 434. I'm your host, Michael. Joining me this week, Gail from nyfights.com. What's going on, Gail?
Hey, if everybody is nursing their Super Bowl sports hangover, we are the cure. It's time to talk
And,
some
bo-
boxing.
and boxing fans are still ticked off about that Teofimo fight against Jamaine Ortiz.
Yeah,
We'll talk about that
still,
in a few. In a few.
still. Oh my
Um, and Daniel from Four Boxing News and the Inscribable Podcast hopes to have him on shortly. For those who are new to Pound for Pound Box Report, Pound for Pound Box Report, live YouTube show, podcast, blog, website, etc., talking all things boxing. The motto is when boxing is good, we'll talk about it. When it's bad, we will talk about it. Bottom line is, if it concerns the sweet science, it will get discussed. If you want to find out any and all information about Pound for Pound Box Report, please go to the site p4pboxingreport.com. There, uh, you will find where to check out Pound for Pound Box Report on various social media platforms, links to the YouTube channel, links to the Facebook, Twitter, IG page, also links to where to find us all over the podcast realm, be it Anchor, be it Spotify, be it Apple Podcasts, be for the time being Google Podcasts, wherever you listen to your favorite podcast, you should be able to find Pound for Pound Box Report, excuse me, if you wish to donate. And shout out to the donation. I believe it was Beagle. I could be wrong. For the $5 dono last week. Got Let Donation Be the Best Nation. Got Cash Me and PayPal donation links on the site. Um, Last but certainly not least, uh, if you for fitness enthusiasts or for those who want to get their bodies in shape for 2024, please check out the link to Body, formerly known as Beach Body on Demand. For those who are new to Body or wish to get on Body, I believe they have a 50% plan right now where you get half off for those who are interested in yearly subscription to Body. They have programs for any and all suitable fitness, suitable interests and goals. If you're looking to get your weightlifting on, check out programs like Body Beast, Lift For, Lift More. If you're looking for hardcore, functional, CrossFit, hit style workouts, check out programs like Chop Wood, Carry Water, 645, 6 weeks of the work, morning meltdown, etc. If you were into things like yoga, plyo, excuse me, they got programs for that. Pilates programs as well. If you're looking for a boxing specific program, please check out 10 Rounds, and that is a 6 week program, 3 days a week of weightlifting, 3 days a week of boxing based cardio, excuse me, 2 days a week of weightlifting. Or at the very least, if you're not interested in the half off deal for those new to Body, please check out or take advantage of the 2 week trial, which runs throughout the year. And that is for 2 weeks, 14 days, you get free access to any and all programs on Body, including the new sample workout of the upcoming program when I'm on, since I'm already a Body subscriber. Dig Deeper, the program I'm working now. There's another weightlifting, bodybuilding, I should say, based program. Let's get things going by recapping what took place last week. Just shortly after our last episode, you had the return of one Teofimo Lopez defending his WBO belt, WBO junior welterweight title against Jamaine Ortiz, who many boxing fans remember for giving Vasil Lomachenko a tough go not too long ago. And in this fight, I mentioned how people are still ticked off at the decision. The score, first, before we get to the scores, the fight itself. Teofimo Gale is a talented fighter. I can't take that away from him. But he is a dude who is full of flaws. It showed in the bout against Sando Martin. Uh, Jamaine Ortiz basically followed the Sando Martin script, did a lot of boxing, kept things on the outside, made Ortiz, made Lopez come to him. And when Lopez is forced to fight on the front foot, a lot of times he seems to not know what to do. There's no plan for attack, right? Um, doesn't throw a solid, consistent jab, doesn't know how to cut off the ring. and I think he's inadequate. He's weak when it comes to his ability to fight inside. Yes, he landed a few shots here and there, but in the estimation of many boxing fans, the champion lost, and Ortiz got the win. I think it was 15-13 on two scorecards, 17-11. That is the card that got folks really ticked off in favor of Ortiz. I could see scenarios where the fight could go either way, right? I felt that, or even though I felt that Jamaine Ortiz won, but the 117-111 scorecard in particular was ridiculous. The more
Yeah.
I see Ortiz, the more inconsistent he is, and he keeps talking himself up for a fight with Bud. Bud would destroy him. Not only that, you have his fanboys saying he's the best at 140, not based on what we've seen, particularly this fight.
Top Rank needs to stop with the Thursday night cards. They are cursed. No moss. No moss. We assumed that at the very least, this fight could not be as bad or disappointing as the horrible Stevenson versus De Los Santos fight. And it wasn't that bad, but it certainly failed to meet expectations. Lopez looked like he was both physically and mentally fit going into the fight. I heard a lot of interviews where he seemed very lighthearted, upbeat, up for the challenge, happy to be back in the ring, enjoying the promotional positioning, using the theme "The Greatest Showman" from the well-known movie. And it turned out to be a circus, all right, but not the kind he anticipated. Listen, Jamaine Ortiz decided to borrow from the playbook of Sandor Martin, right? And somewhat the other defensive-minded fighters who fought Teofimo Lopez, because that's the kind of fighter he struggles with, and he did. The problem is Ortiz forgot that in addition to making sure he didn't get hit, he actually also had to throw some punches. And while he did outland Teofimo barely, he landed 80 punches to Lopez's 78. Not exactly a barn burner. Nevertheless, he had that fight in his grasp. Two of those cards were 7-5 scorecards. The third was from Steve Weisfeld, who is widely considered one of the best judges in the sport. Weisfeld likes to see a fighter in a close round moving forward. He likes to see somebody being more effectively aggressive. You could argue that just moving forward isn't effective aggression. But when either guy is doing a lot in a close round, Steve Weisfeld is going to give the round to the guy moving forward, not the guy moving backward. So for some people, it looked like Ortiz was forcing Lopez to chase him all over the ring unsuccessfully all night. To somebody who sees the fight through a different lens, like Weisfeld, he sees a guy trying to get to his opponent, the opponent not complying, not playing along, not standing and trading, not doing anything tactically or technically proficient. And so he's going to give the round to the guy that's chasing him. That's where you get that 117-111 scorecard, which through that explanation, it's still wide, but it doesn't look completely out of line. The problem is a lot of the rounds were close. There were very few definitive rounds. It was a tough fight to score. It was a tougher fight to watch. Fans didn't really sign up to see something like that. And for Pete's sake, it's a Thursday night, and ESPN decides to start that fight card, admittedly 2 fights, at 10:30 Eastern time on a
Right.
where a lot of people are having to go to work or school or get up and do something productive the next day. Bad move all around. Bad main event, bad matchup, bad performance. The reason that Lopez broke into tears upon hearing that decision was clearly because, once again, he thought that he risked taking an L. And he just about did. Ortiz let off the gas in those last few rounds for whatever reason. All three judges gave Teofimo Lopez the 10th, 11th, and 12th rounds, and that's how he won the fight. How does that sound familiar, fight fans? Yes, it should. Ortiz has got to be kicking himself, realizing how he let this opportunity slip through his fingers. It's really a shame. He's going to have to do some serious rethinking, going back to the drawing board when he gets back to the gym. But it was tough to watch. Teo's stock went down in a fight where that should not have happened. And it was just a hot mess. And let me tell you what, Teofimo's boss, Mr. Bob Arum, is not happy with him.
Shout out to Beagle47 first off for he's listening live right now. For those who are checking this out on YouTube, make sure you hit that like button, make sure you hit that subscribe button. To your point, bad scheduling, bad fight, and I don't know what was worse, the scheduling, the fight, or Teofimo's post-fight interview. What was that? Just bouncing all over the place. Nobody was understanding what he was saying. And sir, stop using Rosa Parks' words. If you're going to quote Rosa Parks, please do so correctly. On Black History Month, for peace sakes, stop it. Anyway, he got the win. It is what it is, despite that people are outraged about it. When you look at the 140 landscape, we will talk about Devin Haney in a bit. Where does Lopez go from here? Curiel Matias, he's fighting later on this summer. But we know the situation with Haney. What are Lopez's options at this point?
He has to really rethink what he wants to do. He looked bad. He's got a lot to think about, and he's got a lot to, frankly, apologize for. I mean, you'd like to think it was an anomaly, that it was just a one-off bad night. He seemed ready to go. He seemed well prepared. He seemed in a good place mentally. He and his dad don't seem to be, fighting each other too much. But we have seen this plot before with him. He does say that he has more or less admitted in a roundabout way that he fights to the level of his opposition. Well, that is not the way to make a career that takes you into the Hall of Fame, because you aren't always going to fight somebody who's at the top of the ticket. Problem right now is that most of the guys at 140 at the top of the division, have all kind of picked dance partners already. We've got a fight we're going to talk about a little later between Devin Haney and Ryan Garcia, all set to go. Great. Good for them. You have, not that he's going to take these on, but Rolly Romero is also tied up. Who else in the top 20 is there out there for him? He's not going to fight somebody like Barroso. He's, I doubt, going to fight somebody like Curiel Matias.
Barboza, even though Barboza has left Top Rank?
But Barboza possibly, that it has to be a fight worth Bob Arum and Oscar De La Hoya breaking bread and doing business with each other. And they've proved they can when they're motivated to. Is he motivated enough to make that happen? I don't know. Where does Regis Prograis sit? He's coming off a loss. Truly, I do think one of the more interesting fights, more challenging fights, and honestly, even though there's danger involved, would be a much better opponent is Subriel Matias. He's got a belt. He's the guy who stands right in front of you. Yeah, he's
high risk, low reward. They ain't gonna do
he's
that.
a punching machine. Well, but he is there to get hit. He is there to get hit. So it's a fight worth thinking about, and he is a guy that's being avoided. So it's a possibility. But right this minute, Lopez's options are pretty limited. So then you have the discussion that's out there. If we want to turn the page to the next chapter, there is a guy hanging around Las Vegas looking for an opponent, and there's been chatter about Conor Benn.
Mm-hmm. A potential fight down the road, maybe not in the immediacy, could be one. Keyshawn Davis, who fought on the undercard, right? He's been asking for a step up opponent, quote unquote, and he got it against former 2 division champion Jose Pedraza. And Keyshawn coming off of a bit of a hiccup outside of the ring, testing positive for marijuana, right? He says he got his mind right, and things are back on the good foot, if you will. And the most thorough, the most complete performance in his career, dare I say, Gail. He showed a maturity, he showed a professionalism that I haven't seen from him up to this point. Once he got Pedraza hurt, finished him off, and after the fight, he said that he wants to fight Teofimo. Now, as a backstory here for those who do not know, in the week leading up to this card, I think it was at the final pre-fight press conference, Keyshawn confronted Teofimo about some comments that Lopez said that Keyshawn felt was comments of disrespect. They had their words at that press conference, but afterwards, after Davis's win over Pedraza, he's like, "Yeah, I'll move up to 140 right now and fight you." After Lopez got the decision over Ortiz, the two, Ortiz and Keyshawn, got into it as Lopez was barking over the top rope towards Davis's direction, who was watching from ringside. Discussion about the fight with Pedraza first. And even though I don't think that the fight between him and Lopez is going to happen anytime soon, if Davis keeps progressing at this rate, he's going to be on the verge of a title shot sooner or later, because I believe he's ranked in the top 10 by a couple of sanctioning bodies.
Yeah, that matchup, it wasn't won before the fight, and even when Davis won, called out Lopez, I thought, it's not going to happen. That's not going to happen between two of the marquee names at Top Rank. But after the fight, it's more of a possibility. I still don't think it's a probability, but like I said, Mr. Arum is none too pleased with Teofimo and his nonsense and his performance. And he might just decide, you know what, sink or swim. I'm going to let my young gun, who just looked good, who just looked great, actually, who's lit up, ready to go, wants to take on a challenge. Yep, he might just throw him in there with him. I wouldn't hate that. Actually, I wouldn't hate that at all. I like Davis's attitude. It's a great test. It's a step up. And if he really is as good as he looks, great. Then Top Rank doesn't have anything to worry about. They've got a new guy at the top in the division, and they can move along happily with that. Even if Davis loses, though, as long as he doesn't get blown out and he's competitive, he's still going to be congratulated for taking on a challenge. Increasingly, fans are much more willing to grant a guy an L as long as they're willing to take on top names. I don't hate it, but the ongoing saga of Lopez continues. And before the fight, all he could talk about was Bud Crawford. After the fight, Bud had some choice things to say about Teo on social media. That ain't happening anytime soon.
Yeah, of course. I wrote about that for 3kingsboxing.com. Please check out 3kingsboxing.com, your source for pure unadulterated boxing information. Shout out to the entire Three Kings crew and staff and contributors. 2K, aka Prodigy of Boxing, who's the man behind Three Kings, Bo, who you've heard numerous times on this particular podcast. Senior writer, head of media relations. I'm a senior writer for 3KB. Shout out to Bakar, who's another writer for 3KB. Red, who's our editor behind the scenes, and all the contributors behind the scene. Corey, Jay, Lordzo, etc. Yeah, but how can I put this? I'm trying to put this in the best way possible. Lopez been calling for a fight with Bud, and even after the bout said, "Oh, well, I'll fight him at a catch weight." Stupid, because it's highly unlikely that Bud is going to fight at 47 again. He's out of his depth. Real talk. Thinking he can call for a fight with Bud. I think it's a bit of a stunt. It's a bit of clout chasing. He's not going to get that fight. And not inside, he knows he's not going to get that fight. Sir, worry about what's in your division. You have fights in and around your division at 140, and if certain folks want to move up at 135. We mentioned Haney. You mentioned Matias. You got Shakur at 35. You got Tank at 35, and we'll talk about Tank Davis later. The fights we mentioned Barboza. You got Jose Ramirez, former unified champion there, right? Also at 140. Stop clickbaiting with comments about Bud when you know you're not going to get him, and boxing fans don't believe you have any chance of beating him when you got options if you were willing to take it, and if you get your head out of your behind, there are options there for you at 140. Get some act right, sir. That's all I'm gonna say about that. And you know, let's move on, and let's hope that Teofimo gets some consistency and fights to his talent, because like I said, he is a talented fighter, but too often I don't know what it is with him that he keeps under. Well, I do. Part of it is because he doesn't know how to fight coming forward, but another part of it, I just don't think he tends the business is concentrated fully on a consistent basis. Let's move on to some news here. We mentioned Devin Haney. News broke over the weekend that him and Ryan Garcia agreed to fight in April. The two got in a bit of a dust up over the weekend. That moment that became viral. Garcia shoved Haney. Bill Haney got upset. The fighter got upset. Blah blah blah. Gail. The bottom line is that it is going to happen. Look, a lot of people feel that, and justifiably so, that Garcia is not at Haney's level, particularly from a boxing standpoint. However, it's about money, and it's about who puts the butts in seats. And that's what Ryan does, however you feel about him in terms of his ring ability. And Haney knows that. Team Haney knows that. Golden Boy knows that. That's why this fight is going to happen. It's going to be a moneymaker. Will it make as much money as Garcia and Tank last year? No, but it will probably be a pay-per-view fight, and both fighters are going to get a good bit of dough coming out of this. That's what it is. This is professional boxing, folks. Cash rules.
Absolutely. They both have something the other man needs. Devin Haney is a quality opponent that Ryan Garcia wants to test himself against, go up against the big names, show that he's a player. And if we look at the top names in and around that weight class. You know, sometimes they're called the Four Princes, sometimes they're called the Fab Five. But if you list them and you've got Haney, Lopez, Tank, I'm missing somebody, and Garcia. Garcia is at the bottom of the list. Certainly, I had Shakur Stevenson, and then Ryan's certainly talent-wise at the bottom of the list. Although it's still a good position to be in, you know, relative to everybody else. But what Ryan has is the draw. He has the audience. He has the ability to sell a fight. He draws people in. He has fans. He gets people to buy those pay-per-views. And Haney needs exposure to Garcia's fan base and audience, which is an absolute reality. Funny, you could call Garcia a YouTube boxer. He isn't, in the sense of somebody like a Jake Paul, but you know, he brings the fan base. He sells the tickets. So the two of them are a perfect match, and there is a legitimate backstory. They fought 6 times in the amateurs, 6 times, and they each won 3 fights. So this is game 7, if you want to look at it that way. And if the promoters don't position it that way as game 7, you know, they're blowing it. You know, we're going to see video pop up of them competing as young kids, as amateurs. That stuff's got to be around. Photos, people who were there, it's going to get talked about. You know, and this is sort of to settle it. After 6 fights, they get to have a 7th. That's so rare. Think about other top-level professionals in the sport of boxing. Who among them has had the opportunity to fight each other, amateur or professional, 7 times? So there's some intrigue there. It's a great fight. It's a little bit late to be considered a spring break fight, but it's still got that flavor too, which for the age base of the fans that might be interested, younger fans, they're going to come out. What I also like is that they're very close in age. Haney has fought a lot of fighters who are older than him, or at least north of 30, even if they're close. Kambosos was the closest. But this guy is an absolute peer, right? Absolutely right there in the sweet spot of the age. I don't hate this matchup at all. I'm looking forward to it. But, you know, if they're going to beef with each other and trash talk and try to use that as a promotional tool, both of them need to get a little better at it, or let their surrogates go at it, because neither of those guys really has their trash talk down. The bottom line is that isn't really their style, but they're going to give it their best shot. I say, you know, guys, just never mind that. Just get to the fight.
Absolutely. And back to our comments about Teofimo and Bud. I'm gonna put it up again. Beagle says that Bud essentially ghosted Teofimo after Ortiz, and as it should be. And I agree with him. He doesn't need to entertain that.
Oh, hell no. But he didn't just ghost him. He trash talked him and shut him down.
At this point, Teofimo, he's beneath Bud. You don't pick. Don't entertain people who are lower than you. You entertain people who are at your level or above you. And right now, Lopez is clearly below Bud, and he did what he's supposed to do in situations like that, and kind of ethered him at the same time on social media. I'm not mad at what Bud did. We also talked about Tank negotiations. Looks like he's going to make his return to the ring pretty soon against, wait for it, Conor Benn. I didn't see that coming.
I'm not horribly surprised. I mean, who else is out there for Abdul Walid, which is now his name, I believe. I haven't seen it. I don't know that I've seen it changed in BoxRec or not. Thankfully, we can all still call him Tank and know what we're talking about. Who's left for him? You know, everybody else filled up their dance cards, and he's standing there on the sidelines looking around saying, well, I need somebody to dance with.
Could have fought Frank Martin.
Not a big enough player, I don't think. The thing about Ben is he does have a fan base in the UK. Now, the fight would need to take place on American soil, wherever it goes down. Las Vegas makes sense. Ben is based there right now. UK fans travel, number one. So if they really want to see him, they'll come over. That's a nice little revenue stream. You know, lots to do in Las Vegas. They love it. They love to pack the place, act up, drink, gamble, all the good stuff that you do in Sin City. And it would be a good seller should there be a nominal pay-per-view in the UK. Will there be a lot of interest here? Well, Tank sells himself very well to his fan base. They will support him. They will want to see him. A lot of people in boxing who are interested in Tank's undeniable talent will want to see him, no matter who he's standing across from. The question will be what weight do they do it at? Ben is a considerably bigger guy. But if they do it at a catch weight, neither of them's really risking a lot. There's no title involved. It's strictly a money fight between two guys who need an opponent. And there is the potential for some decent friction and trash talk between the two. It might be built up more nicely than we think, and it might turn out to be the fight we didn't know we wanted. And for a lot of people here in the United States who see Ben strictly as a drug cheat and a guy who simply won't own up to what he did, own it, admit it, apologize and get past it, they'd love to see someone kick his ass. Why not Tank?
In terms of the quality of the fight itself, it'll be an entertaining scrap because neither guy likes to take a backward step. Both guys can hit, right? I'm with you. The question for me is, and I see Daniel is joining us now. Daniel from Board Boxing News and the Inscriber. I'm gonna get you into this discussion. We're talking rumored negotiations between Tank Davis and Conor Benn. The issue of weight. Ben, since he's returned to the ring, he's been fighting at the 150 range. Davis has been fighting, Abdul Wahid, has been fighting at 135 for a good while now. I don't think Ben can come down to 140. How far is Wahid, willing to go up for this fight to happen?
It has to be 147. It has to be 147, which may not actually work out for Tank because at 140 you saw that it took a bit for him to handle the fighters that he's fought in that weight. 147, yeah, you had 7 pounds, but you have to also admit he's a pretty small guy for that size. So it's a situation of, do you get 7 pounds, which would be 7 pounds you're not normally used to carrying to a fight? And then on top of that, we don't really know what Conor Benn is doing, how he's handling his thing. Because let's remember, folks, there's a reason he's fighting in the United States and not the UK. So you don't even know how that's dealing with it, but that also tells you something else. Even despite that he's been proven to be a commodity, a good, decent one for PBC, enough that I think all three of us thought that he was going to be the headliner to, open up PBC on Amazon instead of Tim Tszyu. he may not be lucrative enough where the other players, like a Haney, even though Ryan Garcia fought him, Haney, Teofimo, the other players in my division, let alone 147, let alone somebody like Boots Ennis or Bud, he may not be enough of a cash cow for them to even to bother looking at him. That's an issue. That's an issue because now you're going to a weight class where you've never really been before, and against a guy who may have shown that he's willing to do whatever he needs to do to get what he needs.
Going to give you the opportunity right now, Daniel. Your thoughts on what was Teofimo's win over Jamaine Ortiz? People still feeling some kind of way about it. Not only the fight, how bad it the fight, the lack of real exciting action, and even some of Teofimo's post-fight comments here. Thoughts on the fight, and where does he go from here?
Well, Jamaine Ortiz had pretty much the best game plan that you could have. Switch southpaw and make Teofimo come to you knowing that he's a much better counterpuncher than he is as an aggressor. I didn't expect Teofimo to not really close the door that he never was able to close with Jamaine Ortiz, but he was able to escape anytime Teofimo got him really close to the ropes. The problem, unfortunately, is A, it's still Vegas. B, Teofimo was the house fighter in that area. And C, well, Ortiz's plan was sound. It was great boxing. It was great ring generalship. It wasn't action-oriented. And unfortunately, that hurt him in Vegas because we even got the classic 117, 111 card. But that's when you kind of know that you're going to get a bullshit decision in Vegas. When it's a close fight and you see that either 116, 112, or 117, 111. I luckily was not able to see the comments because I watched it via the app and not actually I watched it through ESPN, not through ESPN Plus. So I luckily got to avoid Teofimo going full Kanye again, because unfortunately almost every single time he has a bad performance, he goes full Kanye. Actually, no, I'm not going to say that. He doesn't go full Kanye. He goes full Broner. And yeah, it's frustrating because you can make the case for Jamaine Ortiz winning that fight, but it's Vegas. If it's against the house fighter, you have to pull off a performance where there's no clear-cut case into it. Unfortunately, Jamaine Ortiz did everything except land enough punches to make it look like he was controlling the action. He didn't. And that's what cost him.
Sorry, it was on mute. Quick words on Haney, Garcia. Thumbs up, thumbs down.
Haney, Garcia. You know what? And this is the case. Oscar kind of wins because he got the fight that he originally wanted, that him and Ryan originally wanted. Out of this whole scenario, suddenly, oh no, you're gonna fight Rolly, or you're gonna fight somebody else. You wound up going with the fighter that we all thought you were gonna fight at the beginning of the year. So kudos on that because Garcia's definitely gonna be the underdog in this fight when it comes to Haney. And going into that after fighting Tank and losing the way he did to Tank, even though it kind of did look like he was, if that didn't happen, if he didn't get knocked out, it looked like he was going to start to figure Tank out. It's a good test. What it shows to me is Ryan's actually willing to test himself, and you know what? Golden Boy's willing to make it happen when they have control of the situation. Because I know people probably going to throw Jaime Munguia. We have to remember Jaime Munguia's primary promoter isn't Golden Boy, it's Zanfer. So I say thumbs up on this. If it's anything like the Tank fight, we're going to be entertained. If it's anything like the Tank fight, we know Ryan is actually going to try to go out on this show. So there's good in that.
Let's just hope he can put on a better performance this time as opposed to his fight. His stoppage loss to Gervonta Davis. Let's move on here because it's going to be pretty short episode, actually. Get to preview some fights here. Let's start. I'm going back to you, Daniel. Let's start with where do I want to go? Let's go Mexico. And a candidate for knockout of the year and one of the bigger upsets of the year was Adrian Curiel, I believe second round knockout over Sivenathi Nontshinga to win the IBF title at 108 pounds. They're going to run it back this Friday, I believe it is. No, this Friday, I believe, yeah.
Yep.
In Curiel's country of Mexico on the zone. On paper, Nontshinga is the better boxer. Better jab, faster hands, smoother guy, smoother, a little bit more athletic. But that didn't mean anything in that first fight as he got clocked, put down, and out. Are the ghosts of that knockout loss, do you think it was still in Nontshinga's head?
It could be. It could be, because that's a bad thing when it comes to prospects, that when they shut up really, really fast and they lose in that fashion, they can't stay with you. Because now, guess what? With Nontshinga, you're not going to an arena that's going to be heavily in your favor. You're going into the Challengers Arena, and you're going to go with a guy who knows he's confident enough in his power to take you out. It's always one thing if it's the upset by decision, because if it's upset by decision, you can make the adjustments necessary. Sometimes when it's the upset by knockout, that gives more confidence, obviously, to the guy that was the beneficiary of it. And this is going to be a very interesting fight, because I want to see Garcia goes out and tries to go guns blazing against Nontshinga, or if he's willing to pace himself and make sure that he doesn't fall into any of Nonshinga's traps. Because, yeah, on paper, Nonshinga's the better fighter overall. So I don't see a scenario where Nonshinga's probably going to knock Garcia out, but I can't see this being a much closer fight down the stretch. But when you're the champ, you know you have to really, really beat the champ, especially in their home turf.
Can the South African turn things around, Gail?
He can. He's, as Daniel pointed out, he is the more skilled fighter, but sometimes an opponent just has your number. He's the one guy you can't get past for whatever reason. And it's got to be in the back of Nontshinga's mind how he got KO'd out of nowhere, had no idea where he was or what had happened. I don't know if he's actually watched it back. I would think that'd be a very difficult thing to watch, seeing yourself sprawled on the deck like he was. So it's an intriguing matchup. We expected a barn burner, fun, competitive fight the first matchup. There's no reason to expect we won't see that this time. I'm looking forward to it. I would normally pick Nontshinga to win. That's why his knockout loss was so shocking. I mean, it was not close. It was not, a stoppage of attrition. It was a one-hitter quitter. Bang, it's done. And will that happen again? Will he have the fight we all expected to see the first time? Hard to say. It really is more up to Nontshinga than it is Curiel. We know what Curiel could do, and there's no reason he won't approach the fight in exactly the same way. He doesn't have to change a thing, in theory. Nontshinga does. Let's see if he does.
There's the air of the unknown hovering over this bout that makes it intriguing. Can the former champion of Shinga recover, not physically, but mentally and spiritually from what happened to him last year and turn things around against Curiel? We will see. Again, this fight takes place February 16th in Mexico on the Zone. Let's move from Mexico to New York. And one of the feel-good stories of last year, was Ashaki Foster beating Ray Vargas to win the vacant WBC belt at 130 pounds. Not just beating him, but dominating him, right? His first defense, very good fight. Title defense against mandatory challenger Hernandez, I believe it was, in Mexico. He returns to the ring on the 16th in New York and fights what I believe is going to be a really good challenge in Abraham Supernova. I think this is a fight I can't call, but the thing I'm pretty confident is going to be a highly competitive fight. One of the low-key better matchups of early 2024, dare I say. This is an even fight.
It is a pretty even fight. Certainly it is on paper. If you've seen any video, any interviews of Foster recently, he is ready to go. He is jacked. He's in good shape. He's on video throwing somersaults and got energy to spare. I think he is taking this fight very seriously, as he should. That's exactly how a fighter is supposed to go into a fight. We saw what happens when
he has the attitude and the mental approach that Teofimo should have at all times.
You beat me to the punch. That's exactly what I was going to say. We saw Thursday what happens when a fighter doesn't pull out all the stops to make absolutely sure he's ready. And that's because, to his credit, Oshaki is taking Abraham Nova seriously, as is Nova, from what I'm reading and seeing. Nova has the one loss on his record. You notch another one early enough in your career, and it's the problem. So he knows that there's some pressure at his end to come through as well. I love the matchup. They're very evenly matched. It really is. They both got the skills to make this a fight in their favor. It always comes down to, first of all, who's best prepared, but assuming they are both prepared as much as they can possibly be, it's going to be whose game plan gets imposed on the other, who can make it stick, who can direct the opponent around the ring and position them in the manner in which they choose. If these guys both decide to make it a banger, I'm not going to be mad at it. It's going to be, I think, a low-key, very good fight. And I hope a lot of people do not miss this because it's not on a Saturday night and that they're still nursing their Super Bowl hangover.
Not the kind of fight that casuals will pay attention to, but as Beagle put in the chat, looking forward to this one. Glad you're covering it. That's what we do, Beagle. If you're a hardcore fan, you're gonna have your eye. You're gonna have your eye on this, and you're gonna watch it. That's for doggone sure. And I think we're going to sign off on that note, unless you, Gail, Daniel, y'all have anything that you want to discuss right now. The
Well,
floor is
let's
yours.
also point out that you've got a couple of nice names to look at on the undercard. Tiger Johnson, Olympian, will be on the card. Bruce Carrington, Shushu Carrington, which a lot of people picked as a prospect of the year last year, who's 10-0. He is also on the card. Brian Chevalier is on the card, facing the undefeated Andres Cortez in a super featherweight bout. That might be a pretty wild action fight too. There's a lot to like all the way up and down this card, taking place at the theater at Madison Square Garden, and I bet that's going to be a lively crowd too. So should be a lot of fun to watch. There are some minor cards earlier in the week taking place on Thursday. Regional card from Commerce. Pro Box has moved their normal Wednesday night fight card to Friday. Why? Because none of these guys wanted to work or fight on Valentine's Day. And that's a true story. They wanted to move it.
And to that note, to that note, as Beagle pointed out, appreciate you on that. Jojo Diaz, he's going to fight
Yes.
on the 15th,
Yes.
going to fight Jesus Perez.
Yeah. So there's a lot of action in and around. And the reason for a lot of the altered dates are you had the Super Bowl early in the week. But also, we were expecting a unification fight in the heavyweight division on Saturday. That's not happening. So there's virtually no competition and not a lot of action here in North America anywhere on Saturday. So make sure you got your fight schedule teed up for Thursday, but especially for Friday. And there will be plenty of fights, especially for all my fellow degenerates. A lot of good stuff to watch.
And I'll go to you, Daniel. If you have anything on the brain right now, the floor is yours.
Mainly the Ashaki Foster fight, because I really, really love how Ashaki Foster has grown into being a champion. Because the way he wanted, not a lot of people liked the way he wanted, but the way he defended it the first time showed you that not only he has the skills of a champion, he has the heart of a champion. And this is going to be a very, very fun fight with him and Nova, because they're very evenly matched, and they both are willing to fight a technical fight, but are also willing to brawl it out. That's going to be a very, very fun fight. By the way, thank you, Tyson Fury, for talking to somebody into cutting yourself, because I actually get to enjoy this.
You know what? and I think we may end things on that note.
Good place as any.
Right. I will again appreciate Beagle 47 for his comments and his questions. Again, if you're checking us out on YouTube, please make sure you hit that like button, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and please share the show. Going around the panel here, we begin the show with ladies first, going to end the show with ladies first. Gail from NY Fights, for those who want to talk the sweet science. Let the folks know where they can find you.
You're going to find me on NewYorkFights.com, which is nyfights.com. And I will have a feature interview I did with Jordan Panthen, who is a middleweight prospect who was actually in his first main event on that Hollywood Fight Nights card out of Commerce, California on Thursday night. And fight fans, there's a lot of rumors floating around, nothing verified, a lot of chatter behind the scenes. I'm sure you're hearing things that have to do with Canelo Alvarez, that have to do with PBC, that have to do with Amazon. We're just going to have to stay tuned. Canelo reportedly has an appearance on TV Azteca out of Mexico tomorrow. So we'll have to see what he has to say. He's promising some kind of big announcement. And certainly we will be discussing all of this once it all comes to light next week on the Pound for Pound Boxing Report.
Indeed. I'll go to you, Daniel, from 4Boxing News and the Inscriber Podcast. For those who want to talk the sweet science, for those who want to talk professional wrestling, pro wrestling, or wrestling, for those who want to talk the NBA, especially all things Miami Heat, let the folks know where they can hit you up.
whether it's Twitter, Blue Sky, Mastodon. I think I have Spoutable too, Threads, Ruckus99, RWKUZ99. Definitely catch me on there. And yeah, I am definitely going to be paying attention to what Mr. Canelo Alvarez is going to be saying tomorrow at TV Azteca, because with all the buzzes going around, you're either going to be pleasantly surprised or you're going to be thoroughly underwhelmed.
Yeah, the boxing world is waiting to see what happens when he hits the mic and when news drops tomorrow. That is for sure. For those who want to talk boxing music with fitness, you know what it is with yours truly on Twitter, because I refuse to call it X. Brother JR at Brother JRSC, for those who want to talk boxing music, fitness, and all things fragrance. Particularly, we just finished off Black Owned Fragrance Week. Shout out to Mr. Cologne on IG. But for those who want to talk boxing, music, fitness, and fragrance with me on IG and TikTok, you can check me out on those platforms, Brother JRSC. On the next episode of Pound for Pound Boxing Report, we will have a recap of Jojo Diaz and Jesus Perez. We'll have a recap of Adrian Curiel, Sivenathi Nontshinga rematch. We will have a recap of Oshaki Foster and his title defense against Abraham Nova, and preview of a triple header that's taking place in Tokyo, Japan, on ESPN Plus. Takuma Inoue, who is the younger brother, I believe, of Naoya Inoue, he's going to defend the WBA 118-pound belt against former IBF 115-pound champion German Ancajas. On the undercard, Juto Nakatani, one of the better fighters in the lower weight divisions, former champion at 112 and 115. He's moving up to 118 pounds to challenge WBC bantamweight champion Alejandro Santiago. Also on that card, three division champion Kosei Tanaka, former champion at 105, 108, 112. He's fighting for the vacant WBO 115-pound belt, fighting a guy by the name of Basesqua. I can't pronounce his name. Also on the 24th, that's going to happen in Japan on ESPN Plus. On that same date, February 24th on DAZN, the return of Edgar Berlanga. He's going to fight Padres McCrory. That's the main event of that. So we will talk about all of those fights. Again, thank everybody who joined us in the questions and the comments. Shout out to Beagle, for Gail of nyfights.com, for Daniel of For Boxing News and the Inscriber. I am your host, Michael. This has been episode 434 of the Pound for Pound Box Report. We will see you guys next time. Y'all have a good evening. Good night.